Call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Littleton Planning Board for Monday, April 11th, 2016. Welcome to our new time slot. Now it's 6:30. I do caution board members not to eat your dinner under the table. So can we have a roll call, please?
Karina Elrod. Board Member Rudnicki.
Present.
Board Member Bolt. Board Member Corbett.
Here.
Board Member Graham.
Here.
Board Member Kruger. Board Member Miles. Board Member Samuelson. And Board Member Stallman.
Here.
Well, we do eke out a quorum here with 4 members. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions?
The minutes.
Deletions? Need to bring it up on the screen first? Hearing none, let's move on. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Wendy for nominations for Planning Board Chair and Planning Board Chair Pro Tem.
Okay, I'll take nominations for Chair of the Planning Board.
I'd like to nominate Karina Elrod for Chair of the Planning Board.
Second.
Okay, we can go ahead and, is there any discussion?
No?
Okay, please vote.
That might be nice to do that.
It's 5 in favor. The motion carries unanimously. Karina Elrod continues to be your chairman. Okay, now I'll take a motion for the vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mark Rudnicki for the Vice Chair of the Planning Board.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? The vote is 5 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
Well, since Karina's not here, I will thank you, board members. Now we have introduction of new board members. We have Brian Corbett, who was alternate one, who now goes by his true name, Brian. Now a regular member. We also have a kind of a rookie, and I hope that board members will get him up to speed on what's going on in Littleton. That's Bruce Stallman, who is the new alternate 2.
Indeed.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, thank you.
The rest of us are old hands. Next, we have the certification of meeting minutes from March 28th, 2016. Do we have a motion for approval?
I move that we approve the minutes from the March 28th regular meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those, well, let's vote.
The vote is 5 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. Those that want to speak on general business items and non-agenda items on tonight's schedule, you can come up to speak. You have a total of 3 minutes to speak. Does anyone wish to speak? Pam, you come forward and state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Planning Board. My name is Pam Chadbourne, and I live in District 1. And I wanted to talk to you tonight about the zoning ordinance revision, not the one on the agenda, but the one that Planning Board went through so carefully in the middle of March and the end of February. You took hours, and I appreciate so much that you did, to look at the proposed revised tables for our zoning uses. It was extraordinary to me what you were asked to do. I don't think that that's appropriate for you to do. There was obviously way too much in that table all together at one time for you to undertake and for us, the public, to understand and to respond to. And my other my request of you is to not treat this as a simple ordinance or resolution. It is obviously not. I've noticed this over the past 4 or 5 years and wondered about it, but these major changes are undertaken for months, suddenly come forward as a first reading and a second reading, and the public gets 3 or 4 minutes to talk. And that's no way to conduct this type of change. Again, I thank you so much for going through it and for pulling all of the things that you noticed were policy changes, but all it takes is to miss 1 or 2. And those of us who have property rights now will not have them in the future. And I'm going to say, zoning exists for developers, and they use it actively. But those of us who own property now depend on it too. It describes our rights, and it shouldn't be changed for the ease of a developer or under the guise of modernization or simplification. Those simply aren't compelling enough. There are other things the planning board needs to do. If any of you saw the council meeting that considered the neighborhood plans, you know that those are important work. And planning board probably ought to be undertaking corridor and activity plans and neighborhood plans. So this zoning code modification, I'm going to ask you to table it. Set it aside. If the council doesn't agree, convince them. You will protect our existing property rights. It is a massive change. It needs to be undertaken in a different way. And look at the other stuff that planning board really needs to be doing now. So thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board? Seeing no rush to the rostrum, we'll move on to the next item of business. That's Planning Board Resolution 01-2016, resolution approving the Jamison Village preliminary plat. They're asking to continue to April 25th, 2016. I've been informed that they're not ready to present. You remember our last meeting going through and tabling the item. I've been told we need to vote on the continuance to our next regular meeting. Is there any discussion before we vote?
I move to approve the resolution approving the Jamison Village preliminary plat. Not that exciting.
Well, it was actually. You're not voting to approve it. You're voting to continue it. So
Did you use the word continue?
Oh, I was reading right from the thing. I move to continue.
Continue.
Okay.
The resolution regarding the Jamison preliminary plat.
Okay. We have a
Is that
second.
You have to do a date, sir.
The date.
To
Please include-
April 25th, 2016.
Thank you.
I won't throw my water at you.
Okay,
for that next.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll have a vote.
The vote is 5 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
Rolling right along here, next item is a public hearing. Before I go into the public hearing, this is what will happen. We will first have staff give a presentation on the public resolution. We'll then have board members have a chance to ask technical questions of staff. Since staff, basically the city is the applicant, there'll be no applicant presentation. We'll then open up to public comment. After public comment, we'll close the public portion of the hearing and have a discussion with planning board members, and then either take a vote to approve, not to approve, to table, or to approve with conditions. So, let me read this off. Resolution recommending approval of an ordinance amending Section 9 of Chapter 4 of Title 10 of the City Code concerning parking space dimensions, drive aisle widths, and accessibility references. Could we have the staff presentation?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Planning Board. Carol Kuhn, representing Planning and Neighborhood Services. The item before you this evening is a resolution to recommend approval of an ordinance amending Section 9 of Chapter 4 of Title 10 of the City Code. The proposed amendment concerns parking space dimensions, drive aisle widths, and accessibility references. Proposed revisions and amendments to the city zoning and subdivision resolutions are presented to the Planning Board at a public hearing. During the public hearing, the Planning Board makes a recommendation to approve with conditions, continue, or deny the request. The proposed ordinance is then presented to City Council. City Council makes the final decision on all proposed ordinances. If approved, this ordinance would be applied citywide for all new land development applications within the City of Littleton. In 2015, the city hired the firm of Clarion and Associates to provide an assessment of the city's zoning codes. Based on direction from that assessment, the Planning Board and Community Development staff are undertaking a comprehensive review of the city's zoning ordinances. The initial phase of this project is a thorough review to modernize the use table in Chapter 3 of Title 10. A citizen stakeholder committee was formed to assist with this initial phase. Staff anticipates this phase will be completed over the next several months and will include community input on the topic. Subsequent phases will be organized once review of the use table is complete. In addition to the work with Clarion, staff has identified a list of technical zoning standards that need more immediate attention to provide further clarification for incoming land development applications. These technical updates will be proposed in coordination with the overall zoning code project, yet will be undertaken on a separate track and schedule. Staff will be bringing these minor amendments forward in small segments. The item before you this evening is an update to the parking space dimensions and drive aisle widths, as well as the accessibility references found in the parking section, and is separate from the zoning table that was presented to Planning Board during the study session. The city's existing zoning code parking space dimensions are 9 by 20 feet, and the drive aisle width requirement is 23 feet. The city's parking space dimensions differ from the industry standard and the national average of 9 feet by 18 feet, with drive aisle width of 24 feet. The proposed changes to Littleton's parking space and drive aisle width dimensions are considered to be effective in organizing the flow of traffic in and out of parking spaces and providing adequate and safe width for drive aisles. The reference to handicap accessible spaces is proposed to be updated with a more appropriate reference of ADA, Americans with Disability Act, accessible. Staff researched the dimensions of mid-size sedans and mid-size sport utility vehicles and found that the average mid-size sedan is 6 feet wide and 16 feet long. An average mid-size SUV is 6.5 feet wide and 17 feet long. The proposed parking space dimensions in this resolution will adequately accommodate most vehicles. Staff researched the parking space dimensions in Arapahoe County, the City of Centennial, the City of Inglewood, the City of Lakewood, the City of Lone Tree, and Douglas County, and found that these neighboring jurisdictions have similar parking space size and drive aisle width requirements. The parking and drive aisle dimensions for these jurisdictions are outlined in the following slides. The 90-degree parking space dimensions in the Arapahoe County Land Development Code are slightly smaller than the proposed 9 by 18 dimension. However, as you can see in the table, the drive aisle width is the same. The City of Centennial has the same parking space dimensions, but includes variations of the drive aisle width. However, you can see that the two-way drive aisle width is 24 feet. The City of Inglewood has similar stall dimensions, but with a slightly longer space length of 19 feet for the 76 to 90 degree spaces. However, in the city of Inglewood, you are allowed to have a reduction of 2.5 feet for vehicle overhang if the parking space is abutting continuous curbing. The proposed revisions before you this evening do not include such a reduction for vehicle overhang. The city of Lakewood has a 9 by 18 parking space dimension with a 24-foot drive aisle width, which is exactly what we are proposing this evening. The City of Lone Tree's regulations specify a 9 by 18 parking space dimension and a drive aisle width of 22 feet. Douglas County has a 9 by 18 parking space dimension and a 24-foot drive aisle width. The proposal will bring the city's parking space and drive aisle dimensions in line with industry standards, the national average, and neighboring jurisdictions. Staff is proposing a standard parking stall length of 18 feet, an ADA parking space length of 18 feet, a one-way drive aisle width for 90-degree spaces of 24 feet, and a two-way drive aisle width for all angles of 24 feet. There is no proposed change for the compact sparse parking space dimensions of 8 feet by 18 feet or the ADA parking space width of 12 feet. The reference to handicap accessible spaces is proposed to be updated to the appropriate reference of ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, accessible. As part of the staff analysis, the Community Development Department measured and took photos of 2 existing parking lots within the city. The following slides show the photos from the Arapahoe County Administration Building employee parking and Aspen Grove. This photo was taken at the Arapahoe County Administration Building employee parking lot. These parking spaces meet the current standard of 9 feet by 20 feet with a 23-foot drive aisle. As you can see, there is a lot of space between the end of the vehicles and the end of the parking spaces. This photo is from Aspen Grove. The parking spaces range between 8.25 by 18 and 9 by 18 with a drive aisle width of 24 feet. Although the widths of the parking spaces do vary, the length and drive aisle widths are consistent with the proposed revision to the parking space dimensions. And just to note that this is the city's van, and it is 16.5 feet long. Three letters of support for the proposed reduction in parking space length and 1 foot increase in drive aisle width were included in your packet. At the beginning of the meeting, staff handed out 2 additional letters of support that were received after the deadline for the staff communication. Norris Design, SA Miro, and the Lund Partnership all provided letters of support. These letters, as I mentioned, are in your staff communication. As you have read, these letters reference the industry standard of 9 by 18, the standards around the Denver metro area, and also state that the existing city standard is outdated. These 2 letters were handed out prior to the meeting, and they also point out the city's outdated standard of 9 by 20. Staff finds that the proposed changes to Littleton's parking space and aisle width dimensions are considered to be effective in organizing the flow of traffic in and out of parking spaces and in providing adequate and safe width for vehicle drive aisles. Staff recommends approval of the resolution to recommend that City Council reduce the parking space length for both standard and ADA spaces from 20 feet to 18 feet, increase the one-way drive aisle width for 90-degree parking spaces from 23 feet to 24 feet, increase the two-way parking aisle width for all angles from 23 feet to 24 feet, and update the reference to handicap accessible spaces to ADA accessible spaces. Staff is here for any questions.
Great. Let's start on this side. Any questions?
Do you have a question? Just it seems consistent across all jurisdictions, but why on a one-way drive is 24 feet still fairly standard?
Ours is 23 right now, so we thought it would just be more consistent to make it 24 feet.
Why do you need that much on a one-way?
To make it go down to the 12 feet would be a huge increase and huge change in our standards, so we just wanted to make it across the board consistent with the 24 feet, rather than making it go from 23 all the way down to 12. That would be a big departure from what we currently have.
I guess I'm just more curious, functionally, why does it still have to be that wide on a one-way drive?
Yeah, other jurisdictions do not have it that way. If the planning board wishes to revise the resolution and make add a condition of approval, that's completely fine. We did run this through our traffic engineer, and he has indicated that that is completely acceptable to have the drive aisle width, because to go from 23 down to 12 would be a large departure from what we currently have, in addition to decreasing the parking stall size.
Right, so I understand that it would be a big change. I'm just
Right.
thinking if we're trying to reduce surface areas and things like that, why wouldn't we do something that's a little more functional? I'm just wondering if there's
Right.
practically a reason, because even though it's one way, cars still end up going two ways, and so you want it to be
Nope,
double wide?
Nope, it was just to not deviate from what we currently have by too much.
Okay. And then the other jurisdictions have the tables that show parking angles and measurements, and ours is pretty basic with just
Right.
text. And do you find that in working with developers and with citizens that that's interpretable, that people can understand that and work with it just as easily as some of the tables, which I find to be probably more detail but user-friendly?
Correct. I think that some of the issue that we've had with the parking stall, the applications coming in, is the fact that it's in the text format. People automatically look for the table, but we don't have as many deviations as they do to put in a table. Ours is pretty succinct and just a few items in there. And some of those have, all the various degrees and, and angles and reductions and compact space sizes and a variety of different choices in the table. And ours was fairly straightforward, so we stuck with that original format.
But do you think we're missing some detail? Do you think that we're doing the citizens or developers a disservice by not having more detail and more options?
We're hoping that some of this will be covered in a future amendments, maybe some changes to that section in the code. That right now we just wanted to tackle this piece of it.
Okay.
And hopefully we're going to be moving to more tables, as you can see with the work with Clarion and stuff. The goal is to move a lot of the stuff over into tables and do some more cross-referencing.
Okay.
So this would only affect future projects that are coming in? Anyone that's already had their plans approved, would they be able to go back to these?
They could process an amendment to change, but there's a lot of things that would have to go into changing it. They would have to restripe. There's a lot of cost. It's intended just to be for any new applications.
But if someone's approved but they haven't started any construction or laid out any
They
lots,
could apply for an amendment.
And that would be administrative?
Yes, sir.
Bruce?
So, to Kurt's point, if Aspen Grove wants to repave their parking lot, for the sake of my argument, then they would be subject to the new regulations, because they'd have to restripe anyway.
Yes, sir. And anyone can make them longer. This is just the minimum. So if they don't want it, we're not making everyone go down to the standard. It's just we're lowering the minimum size. They can make them longer.
Okay, I
Make a
understand.
larger drive aisle width.
Okay, and then, you referenced industry standard quite a bit in here without, I don't know, I didn't catch in the text what that standard was. Is it a national traffic engineering kind of standard, or is there some sort of specific reference, or is it more just what everybody does?
If you Google, going back to Google, but if you Google average parking stall space in the United States, 9x18 comes up. The ITE manual has a smaller stall space of 17 and a half. So we were thinking we would be more in line with other jurisdictions by going with 18, and really who can go out and measure that half a foot, So we
Okay.
were hoping that it would be in line with just the average national standard of 9x18. And working in other jurisdictions, a lot of developers have come in and said that, they design on a design piece and they come in and think it's 9x18. So, and it would allow for more open spaces, what we're hoping, and some more parking lot landscaping. And by narrowing down the parking stall length.
Okay. And the last question I was going to ask was, you were referencing, I don't pull it back up, but average car size, and is car being used generically, or is it specifically sedans?
I used a midsize, I did all the research. I used a Honda Accord, which actually happens to be a little longer than some of the American cars.
Which is, yeah, that's may in fact be true, but it strikes me that you get into parking lots a lot where you see, Suburbans and pickup trucks and this kind of stuff. So what are the dimensions of those vehicles, which we seem to have a lot of anyway, relative to this standard?
So the average SUV size, midsize SUV, is 16 and a half feet.
So that was your van parked at?
That was the van parked in the
Okay.
parking lot. And then if you look outside, you can see that all of our vehicles fit in our parking space, and those are our work trucks and stuff, so.
Okay, and those spaces are 24? I'm sorry, 19?
Those spaces are, I believe the drive aisle width is 24 feet.
Okay.
And those spaces were
18.
18
Okay,
for the work trucks.
okay, all right, thank you.
Understanding that the vehicles were not going to be coming in and out of the site, they're just parked there overnight.
Okay, thanks.
Andrew?
What was the year of the current size that was chosen, roughly? Is that 70s, 60s, 81?
This year, 2016, I pulled the,
No, the current model that basically just says we're going to cut a foot off. That's really all we're saying.
our
Yeah,
drive
when
aisle.
the existing standards go in place.
I'm trying to remember when the code, those were in the original code back in the 70s, and the AASHTO standard for a car back in the 70s was like 19 feet long, so that made sense. If you look at the AASHTO guidelines, they have a big, huge American car, and it was 19 feet long, but that was the 70s.
Right, the boats are what I'm
The
thinking
boats,
of. We don't
yeah.
have boats.
The land yachts, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Has any analysis been doing, are we gaining any parking spaces relevant in the city? Does this change any of the downtown parking and add a spot here and there?
We didn't look at changing it for downtown, but it would take a lot, we figured it would take 6 interlocks. So an interlock is the length of a stall, plus the drive aisle, plus another stall. So that's the interlock. It would take 6 of those to pick up another space. So you'd have to be a large parking area. What we're hoping is that it could get more open space, give people some more options of how they design their parking lots.
Does this open the door for the city to interpret parking lot size and car quantity in a different manner?
Interpret it differently, I don't understand.
So a new development has to have 100 spots. Because we're reducing the spots and we're gaining one for every 6 or 7, depending on how we run that math, are we in essence gaining the ability to load in 7 or 8 more parking spots on something that could have probably had 100?
Not at this time. We're going to, in the future, be looking at all aspects of our code, and perhaps the parking standards could be in that. But at this point, that is not what's anticipated with this resolution.
This would not have a direct impact on that?
This would not have a direct impact on that, no. On the minimum standards that are in the regulations, no.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, I thought you mentioned that Aspen Grove currently has 18-foot stalls. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How did they get away with that, to not meet Denver or Littleton's old code?
I actually went out to dinner there over the weekend too and poked around. It appears that they have restriped their parking lot in some areas. So if you can go out there and look, and you can see the old spot where it was, on the ground and it was longer, and they have restriped it.
So on their own, they just
Yes, sir.
restriped it?
It appears to be that way. I do
in
not.
violation of Littleton's code?
I don't have any more history other than what it appears to be.
Or they could have labeled them as compact,
Yes, they
because
could have.
compact has always been 18.
Yes. Let's go to the comments about the size of vehicles, like a Silverado, a pickup truck, a fairly large vehicle. How long are they? Do you have any idea?
I think if you give me a moment.
Sure.
We have one of our large service trucks in the parking lot, and it is 21 feet long, but it has the vehicle overhang. It has all of the, I guess it has a a bed, a step, and all kinds of things, and with a vehicle overhang, it would still fit in the 18-foot stall.
Okay, so I assume a Silverado would be
Even
19,
smaller.
18, something like that?
Yes, probably, it would be smaller than the pickup truck with the bed, with the step, and all the toolboxes in the back.
Okay. I also noticed in the comments from citizens that Denver's code, a beacon of efficiency, has less dimensions for their parking spaces.
Yes,
correct?
yes, sir.
Even less. And as Andrew mentioned, we're only looking at 1 foot here. We're
Yeah.
losing 2 feet on the stall, but gaining 1 foot on the corridor, let's say.
Yes. So in a full interlock, we would be picking up just 2 feet.
Right.
3 feet, I'm sorry, 3 feet. Because we'd be increasing the drive aisle, but picking up 2 feet on the other end, so it's a
Yes.
net gain
Okay.
of 3 feet. So it would be very difficult to get additional spaces unless, of course, you had another 6 interlocks.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll now open public comment. Is there anyone? Do we have a list? Thank you. We have one name, Megan Vogt, who favors the project. I assume you wish to speak?
Yeah, I don't have too much
Please
to say.
state your name and your address, please.
My name is Megan Vogt. I live in Denver, 836 South Grant Street. I'm a civil engineer with SA Miro, and we do a lot of local
Could you
projects.
speak into the microphone?
Sorry. So, as Carol mentioned, 9 by 18 is by far and away the current standard for most local and I think national jurisdictions with the 24-foot aisle length. So it is a little bit jarring, and we've been caught a couple times, submitting to the city with, assuming the 9 by 18 and having to go back and kind of change the design. So, that's not necessarily your problem, but it is far and away the standard. And it's shown to work. And even in places such as Lakewood, I'm designing 16-foot stalls right now, where there's the opportunity for vehicle overhang. So I think that's the way things are moving. It's, again, shown to work, and I think whatever we can do to eliminate mass amounts of, asphalt or paving in general, it keeps people closer to the buildings, and eliminates the heat island effect, and I think it's a good move. I would also support some additional dimensions for different types of parking, as you mentioned. One way is really not very efficient, mostly because you need such a wide aisle. Sometimes you do need a wide aisle for fire access, but most of the time you can get away with a 12 to 16-foot aisle, depending on the angle of your parking. So it would be nice if that and the compact spaces were better detailed in the current codes, but as Carol mentioned, that can be handled later. I think this is a good first move and kind of a no-brainer.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that wishes to speak for the planning? Pam? Again, state your name and address or your district.
I'm
your
Pam
choice.
Chegwin, District 1. This in and of itself seems reasonable, and I understand the advantages of standardization and reducing asphalt. I think we really need to look at green and ecologically friendly design standards in the city. That's what I'd like to see planning board work on more. The concept, though, that we should conform to everyone else bothers me. I don't think that that's a compelling reason to do things. It's not. And I worked in California, and I parked my car there, and my car is very small. My car is always the shortest. I never see it. It's always shorter than everything else in the aisle. And my car got bashed on the side because I'm going to tell you, normal-sized vehicles do not respect compact spaces. They will park in the compact spaces and hurt my car. The issue here is how much space does it really take for the distracted mom to drive around, and the big guy, the big car, the big truck, he doesn't really care. or might be thinking about something else. And yeah, I think that is important. When you design highways, you design for preventing accidents and safety. You don't design for jamming them all in when they're all still, because that's not what really happens. So this is an okay step in and of itself, but the rationale, I want to see accident statistics in these smaller lots. That to me is what matters. To claim that it works when I'm designing something and setting up how many cars can fit in is fine. But honestly, the operation of the parking lot is when people are moving around, and I guarantee you, in California, there's all sorts of accidents in parking lots. That's a hidden expense. You're not going to see it in this kind of progression of reducing size. Yet it needs to be there. So in future rationale, I'm going to ask staff to provide that, or ask you to ask staff, or look for those kind of things. How functional is it in use? Not when it's static, and not how much it conforms to everyone else. We're not typical. We're in a snow area. We've got ice and snow during the winter. I mean, I'm sure you all know. The snowstorm a couple of weeks ago, everything was obscured. So you need to design for those cases as well. So thanks for your consideration. Like I say, I don't think this is horrible to do now, but in the future, I don't regard these as compelling justifications for change. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for the planning board? Again, seeing no rush, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Do we need to vote on that, or just make a declaration?
You can just declare that as the chair.
I'm sorry?
You can just declare that as the chair.
Declares decent enough. Okay. Commissioner discussion, or board member discussion, sorry.
I have nothing.
I just wonder if we should just go with standard parking spot. The compact length, obviously it's getting dinged when it's that narrower spot. We don't know if cars are going to get bigger, if they're going to get wider. We're pretty sure they're not going to get longer. That's the bad of what's being asked today. We're going to have boats again. But we still have these giant vehicles, and short of cramming them in, and when there is one spot left, the SUV is still going to park in the tiny space. Just call a parking space a parking space. So if I had any amendment, it would be to eliminate compact and just propose that we have standard ADA and anything else that's required legally parking spaces. Just have a parking spot.
I did have one comment I wanted to ask staff. A question. I notice in the draft ordinance that's going to be going to council, you delete all reference to handicap and call it ADA. Is that required language? Or is that just cleaning it up? You don't discuss it in the legislation text, but you do have it in the draft ordinance.
When we spoke with Don Elliott with Clarion and Associates, who you've met in your study session, it was brought to staff's attention that the term handicap is antiquated and the correct term is ADA accessible. So we were just trying to clean it up while we were in that spot and make it consistent.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
Well, I agree with Andrew's comment about eliminating the concept of compact parking. And so I think, procedurally we could, I guess it's a question. Would we vote on as written, as proposed, or could we propose to amend it?
So how you'd handle that procedurally is you'd go ahead and make the motion to approve the resolution, and then if that is seconded, then you could make a motion to amend. And then that would be where you would introduce the amendment to strike the references to compact stalls.
So you move to approve, and then you
yes.
amend it after it's been seconded to
Yes.
approve?
Guess I would caution a little bit about offering amendments here. As you alluded to, staff in the future will be looking perhaps to lengthen additional information on angle parking, widths of aisles, et cetera. I would prefer to have let staff analyze it and come back to us in the future. This is a minor adjustment to our parking stall size. It'd be nice to keep it that way, in my opinion.
So I'll make a motion.
Please.
I move to approve the resolution recommending approval of an ordinance amending Section 9 of Chapter 4 of the Title 10 of the City Code concerning parking space dimensions, drive aisle widths, and accessibility references.
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion?
I want to make a motion to amend to remove compact parking space length and width from the code. From the ordinance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Therefore, we'd be voting on the
amendment to remove compact.
amendment to delete not handicap, but compact.
No, we must keep the ADA.
You have to keep the ADA, but compact spaces.
Absolutely do that, but to eliminate the reference to compact and just have a parking space length.
Okay. We do have our second. Any other discussion? Vote on the amendment? Oh, we do it.
So you're, and basically you're saying there's really no difference between the two, the way the ordinance. Well, that's actually 18 and 18.
It's the width.
Yes, sir, the width of
The
a
width
compact
is the-
parking
I'm
space
sorry,
is
you're
8
right,
feet.
you're right.
And that's the current standard right
Okay.
now.
So where do we see compact today, out of curiosity?
A lot of people use it for employee parking back in the, away from the front entrance where shoppers might come, or like in, for example, a hotel, they'll use it for the staff to park in. Mm-hmm. And it allows them to get some more green space and some more open space if they can shorten it or make the width a little smaller. So they would be able to add another landscape island, but they want the staff to be parked away to leave the close-in parking spaces for the shoppers or the patrons.
And do we see projects, I don't know, King Soopers for the sake of an argument, were we seeing a mix of parking when that project came in?
Yes, right now, our code does limit the amount of compact parking to 25%.
Okay.
So by eliminating the parking, we would have to do another amendment to the code to remove that reference that talks about compact parking spaces. So there's more work that would need to go into the piece to remove the compact parking. But we do see a mix of it when they're having a tough time meeting the parking requirements, because it may be a restaurant use in a mixed-use shopping center, and they want to make sure they have the ability to have the turnover for people to sit down. Those quick-serve restaurants often have a high turnover, so they have the staff park far away in the compact spaces.
Okay. All right.
And then we do have a requirement in the regulations that requires the evenly distributed open space along rights-of-way in certain zone districts, which then would allow them to meet some of those other requirements with the compact parking spaces. Therefore, you're getting more perimeter landscaping.
Okay, and the ordinance, as it exists today, has both?
Yes, sir, and it does have a couple of those references, for example, the one of 25% maximum.
Okay, all right, thank you.
A regular parking space is 9 foot wide.
Yes, sir.
Compact is how much in Littleton?
8 feet by 18.
8 feet even?
Yes.
Okay, because other municipalities have like 8.5 feet.
Yes.
So
We
it's
currently
8
have
foot.
8 feet. Some jurisdictions have gotten rid of compact spaces, but there's other sections, like I mentioned in the code, that would need to be changed, like the reference to the 25% maximum and some other pieces.
And there's no requirement that compact spaces be labeled as such? I've seen that, like in Denver,
Yeah.
in parking garages, it says compact car only. In Littleton, that's not a requirement?
No, they do not have them labeled for the ones that we've seen when we went out and did the windshield survey of things. They do show them as compact on the site plan, though, so that they count on their site data table.
Okay.
So basically what we'd be doing if it'd be basically keeping the parking lot sizes the same
Yes.
if we approve the amendment.
And reducing the Arapahoe County picture that I showed you, that's 20 feet long, so you would be reducing that by 2 feet.
Yeah, it's not necessarily keeping the parking lot sizes the same because we are still suggesting to shrink the length of a standard parking space from 20 to 18.
Well, you take from Peter and give to Paul here. We're cutting back on the length of the spots, but then we're deleting compact car spaces. So in essence, we're going to have same-size parking lots as
Yeah,
well.
you're also increasing the drive width from 23 to 24. So I don't think that this proposal, as it's stated, is designed to reduce the size of parking lots. It's just meant to streamline.
Streamline things and also allow for some additional open space to
Yes.
meet some of the requirements. Some more landscape islands, give people some more options. We are not proposing, as it currently stands right now, any changes to the width of the parking stalls. The ones that are in there now, even the standard space is 9 feet. We're only proposing to change the length of the standard space and increase the drive aisle width by 1 foot.
Well, as you said, if on a double-loaded corridor here, 90-degree parking, you're deleting 2 feet on each side, but adding 1 in the middle. It's a net loss of width of that double-loaded corridor by 3 feet.
By 3 feet there, but the width of the spaces is not going to change with
That's
this
right.
proposal.
Right.
So the length of the parking bay, the chunk of the bays that are there would not be changing at all. So, and we do have a requirement for every 15 spaces. The requirement states that for parking lots with greater than 15 spaces, 5% of the parking lot area needs to be landscaped. So the thought is perhaps you can get some more landscaping in this.
Any other discussion? We're voting on the amendment.
The vote is 2 in favor, with Board Members Stahlman, Rudnicki, and Samuelson voting no. The motion fails 2 to 3.
Now be voting on the main motion.
Protect your car.
Any other discussion? Gentlemen,
None for me, thanks.
any other discussion? Main motion, please vote.
The vote is 5 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
You get it. Right.
Thank you.
Unintended consequences.
Okay, next on the agenda is comments and updates from our Community Development Director. Please take over.
Thank you. We have some handouts for you this evening and some packets of just some the protocols, the legislative rules that were part of what we as planning board adhere to, as well as some contact information, and lastly, an updated zoning map. So just some new reference material for you all that I think will be helpful for you. Then the other thing generally staff wanted to review was some upcoming meetings that we have coming in front of you because we have a busy calendar. The meeting on the 25th, as you voted on this evening, will be Jameson Village as your hearing item, or excuse me, general business item. And then we do plan to turn that into a study session on a couple of items. One will be on some other technical code amendments that staff will be bringing forward regarding the zoning code and updating it. We also hope to have a continuation on the zoning code use table discussion. As you know, we did finally, we meaning the planning board and the steering committee and staff, did make it through that use table and made a bunch of recommended changes. So that will be coming back before you, as well as there was a list of future items. And so we want to start tackling that conversation as well. So that's on the 25th. Then moving into May, we do have a public hearing slated May 9th to review the city's Parks, Recreation, and Trail Master Plan to make a recommendation to council. We do plan then on your May 23rd meeting, you do have a couple planning cases that are tracking for that, as well as it'll be a continuation of the conversation about the use table in the zoning code. And then the last reminder, I wanted to let you know that June 1st is the boards and commission dinner. So that's just some highlights of what's to come. And the other thing is that Wendy very nicely has offered to do a little training for you all on the website and how to access the information that way. So wanted to let you know that.
Counselor?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Real quick question. You've got April 28th here as a Thursday. Is it 25th?
April 25th.
25th is the correct date?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
25th. Yep.
25th, not the 28th.
Yeah.
Only because we tabled the other one to the 25th.
Hi, I'm Wendy Hefner. I'm the city clerk and also your recording secretary tonight because Denise is on vacation. So I wanted to show you all on the homepage of the Littleton website how to get to your meeting documents, your agenda, and the videos, okay? And it all really comes down to these buttons right here in the front. The calendar, we've put 2 calendars up now. We have a calendar of events, and that is things like Little Jam, story time at the library, those kinds of things that are not meetings that our government is having. Then we have a second calendar that says public meeting calendar, and that is where all of our meetings are scheduled. And we're only allowed to have 4 buttons on that front page right now. So we have to pick and choose very carefully what we want there. But all of the meetings are right here. And what is happening is, I'm just going to use City Council as an example. When you click on that meeting, this is what it looks like. It shows what the meeting is, whether it's a regular or study session meeting, the date of the meeting, the time, obviously the address. You can add it to your own calendars in Outlook or Google, and then it has the agenda, and we have now started adding the meeting documents there as well, so that there's a couple of places where you can go search for your documents. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to home. This is where you find the video in this yellow box right here. There's tabs. We're actually experiencing technical difficulties right now. So, but it'll be available tomorrow. So it's just not live streaming. They're recording it.
Cross fingers.
Yeah. Along the top here is each one of the different boards along with council. Planning's a pretty important board, and so they're second. Not that they're all not important.
We are.
Sorry. Okay, so planning board, tonight's meeting. Normally what would happen is a citizen would come in here and they would see this box right here. Under normal circumstances, this box would be blue. And they would click on that and they could watch the meeting live, because it would say it's currently in session. So you just click right there and that will bring up the meeting live. If they want to watch it later in an archived meeting, which I'm going to go back and pull up City Council again, because I know that one's there. We'll go to this meeting right here. All of the agendas are here in this row here. And you'll see over here on the left, if there's no meeting, there's obviously not going to be any attachments to it. But it says no meeting over here on the side. I don't know why I'm pointing with my finger. You guys can't see my finger. Anyway, it says no meeting scheduled right there. And then your agenda will be right here. Your packet information will be here. And then later the journal/minutes will be right here. But this is what it looks like. Maybe. Okay. This is what it looks like. You start the meeting. You can start it from the beginning, but we have started this new process where we're putting timestamps on everything. So if you wanted to hear Kent Bagley talk about LIFT and urban renewal, you just double click.
Kent Bagley.
Yikes. You would just double click on that and it would take you right to where he starts to talk. And it also is the same way with all the motions. It makes it a little bit easier for searching through the video. So you can do the ordinance and then the beginning of if stuff was moved from the consent agenda. But all of the motions and everything are in there so that you can double click on it. The video takes you right there so you don't have to search for it. Okay? We also, and I heard from several people today that this is not working on one of the documents for tonight, and I will research why. But normally, you can click on, you can't click on the attachment, but you click on the actual ordinance, and it will take you, and you can see the staff communication, and then you can see all of the pieces, all the attachments that go with it. So that just makes it a little easier. There's several places to get documents on here. We're still working with the company. They're new and they're a little bit smaller, so we're still working with them. We do still have glitches in it, but we are working on it. So if anybody ever has any questions, please don't hesitate to call me. You can call me or Denise or Jocelyn. We're always here to help. That's what we're here for. So just if you have questions, let me know.
Will this be replacing iLegislate as how we get our information?
No. You will still get all your stuff as in iLegislate, just like you're getting it now. So that won't change anything.
I just know that some people in the past were wanting to know how to do it by the website. There's a couple folks that find that easier. So just wanted to make sure everyone knew how to do it.
Yeah, it's a fallback plan. When Plan A is not working, being able to get to the website's a huge benefit. Will all of the information that we're used to receiving in iLegislate, specifically the staff report, also be published on the website for all to see? Or is the staff report considered an internal
Yes,
correspondence?
no, the staff report is, if you go to the, and you're going to pick out, just say tonight's meeting, and you are going to look at this, it's all, it's all available. This is the entire packet right here. I just wrote the date and then put the packet next to it. And I know Denise has been gone and we just kind of figured this out. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? We just kind of figured this out. Colleen and I are still working through issues. And so we decided that this was going to be our new way. We're going to put the packet on the calendar as well. So this actually contains the entire packet with all of the any kind of maps that you might have, any pictures, the staff report. It includes everything.
It'll be exactly the same as iLegislate.
The same information.
It's the same everywhere.
Will it, because of the formatting of it, will it be in a different format? Will it be easier to read on iLegislate versus?
No, it'll look just like this. It'll look just like this in the thing. That's exactly what you get in iLegislate.
The plat maps are nearly impossible to read on a.
Huh?
The plat maps are nearly impossible to read on a especially on the iPad, but even on a 16-inch screen because you have to go in so close and read all the detail.
That I don't know about that. I know that Jocelyn and Denise have been working on making it easier for you all to read on the plat maps, but I don't know whether they'll give you paper or not.
Just because you have to go in so close, you get 1/10 of the page, and then you have to scroll across and scroll down and scroll back, and you can't read the entire page at once.
So we're working on options, but I would say in the meantime, if anyone ever needs paper, staff is more than happy and willing to make a paper packet of the maps or the associated plan set, if that's easier. That's always an option if you just let me know.
All you have to do is call. Denise will answer the phone and she'll get you the copy.
Along those lines, and just almost in the instance of the last meeting we had, it would have been helpful when we were having technology failure to have those as a go-to. So maybe you don't need 7 of them, but maybe have like 1 or 2 available, that all we have to say is paper, and a piece of paper becomes available for us.
Oh, certainly relative to the meeting, we will have you're right, the file and the ability to do that. I'm just offering ahead of time when you're looking at the packet, preparing for the meeting, if you would like a paper copy, if you reach out to us, we're more than happy to provide you one before you show up.
24 hours?
Whenever you call.
And you can also, if you're looking at your packet and you're having problems, call us right away. Please don't wait until the day of the meeting, because it puts us in a panic, it puts you in a panic, and we're here to help. So if you open your packet and you can't open it, or you look at it and there's something off with it, call. Really, we don't mind helping, but we have to know that you're having a problem. So, any other questions? All righty.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for these spiffy little packets there. It's a lot of good information. Roster, the meeting dates for 2016, maybe a little subtle nudge on legislative rules and protocols and standards of conduct. We'll all read that and hopefully follow these standards. And last but not least, the most important document in my mind in Littleton is this guy, the zoning map, which we aren't touching with our zoning review with Clarion, but the most important document in Littleton is that map. Any other board member comments, discussion on any topic? All anxious to leave early? We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, I think we can do it voice aye?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
And the other thing, I would like to collect your tablets, because that's the last thing we're going to